Chapter 2. Haiku versus the spirit Enenra. The battle against Enenra raged with an intensity that mirrored the storm brewing above. Haiku was a tempest incarnate, channeling raw lightning that crackled from within him. Each strike of power illuminated the shadows clinging to the smoky spirit, but Enenra, an ethereal figure composed of swirling darkness, absorbed the energy around him, twisting it to shield himself from the onslaught. As Haiku sped forward, his movements were a blur, quick as a hurricane, but even the fiercest winds struggled against the suffocating tendrils of smoke that Enenra unleashed. The spirit coiled around him like a vice, drawing on Haiku's life force, the energy flickering like a candle in a gathering storm. Desperation filled the air, thick and palpable, as Ikaru stood frozen on the sidelines, his heart racing and mind trembling under the weight of uncertainty. What was he supposed to do? His father's teachings replayed in his mind, basic spells and incantations, nothing that could confront this malevolent spirit. Spirits were meant to be purified, not slain. But the world had shifted. Their mission demanded blood, and Ikaru felt the very fabric of his understanding unraveling. They were not only tasked with purification but also with reaching his grandfather's sanctuary, a school shrouded in secrets, now a beacon of hope growing fainter with every passing moment. Just as despair seeped into Ikaru's heart, a brilliant eruption of flame broke through the clouds of smoke. Zasaku, with his wings of fire fanned out like radiant banners, charged forward. With a roar that drowned out the thunder, he blasted through Enenra's grip, freeing Haiku from the suffocating embrace of the spirit. Haiku collapsed to the ground, unconscious and still. The sight sent a torrent of anguish crashing over Ikaru like a tidal wave. He sprinted to Haiku's side, his tears falling like raindrops on the ashen ground, pooling around them. The battlefield faded into the background, eclipsed by his rising fear and sorrow. What good was bravery if it bore witness to the fall of his comrade? What strength lay in magic that could not save? On the periphery, Jiro's commanding voice resonated through the air, cutting sharply through the chaos. "To me! Attack!" he bellowed, summoning his fire steed, a creature formed from molten embers and fiery determination. The beast charged, a herald of hope, as Jiro urged it forward to confront the spirit that had nearly claimed Haiku's life. As the flames surged toward Enenra, Ikaru knelt at Haiku's side, lost in the maelstrom of battle, the cacophony around him becoming a distant echo. Hope flickered, threatened to extinguish like candlelight in a storm, but it lingered, a fragile ember waiting to be reignited. In this moment, he realized, even in the heart of despair, the fight had to continue. The air crackled with tension as Jiro's demon horse, a magnificent beast ablaze with fiery wings, charged headlong into the fray. With each gallop, the ground trembled beneath its hooves, the heat radiating with an intensity that could almost melt the very fabric of reality. Flames of fury, Jiro roared, imbuing his voice with the strength of his resolve, his heart surging with adrenaline at the sight of the smoke spirit looming ominously before them. Kazu, not to be outdone by the spectacle of fire and fury, summoned Zasaku, his own spirit animal, to join the relentless assault. The air thickened with tension as Zasaku soared into the sky, its wings fanning out like a dragon's unfurling in preparation for battle. "Attack from the air," Kazu commanded, and Zasaku unleashed a flame burst that cascaded downward, merging with the frantic energy of Jiro's charging horse. Reika, with a determined glint in his eye, did not lag behind. He summoned Tortai, his spirit animal, who had the ability to wield the powers of frost. As the shell of Tortai began to glimmer with icy diamonds, a wave of cold washed over the battlefield, contrasting sharply with the fiery chaos around them. The fire horse unleashed an attack that sent scorching waves through the air while Zasaku rained down flaming arrows upon their formidable foe. Yet, despite their fervent efforts, the smoky spirit remained undeterred. It coiled around the attacks, a swirling blanket of darkness that absorbed fire and ice alike. With a flick of its wispy tendrils, it sent the combined forces of Jiro, Kazu, and Reika hurtling backward. One by one, they succumbed to the power of the spirit, tumbling to the ground, unconscious and battered. Icaro fell to his knees beside Haiku, despair washing over him like a tempest. Tears welled in his eyes as he clasped Haiku's shoulder, the warmth of his friend's life a fleeting memory in the face of such overwhelming darkness. "Please, get up and fight," Icaro implored, his voice breaking as he searched for the spark of life in Haiku's still form. Suddenly, a flicker of awareness sparked within Haiku. He stirred, responding to the call of Icaro's voice as it echoed through the recesses of his mind. With a fierce determination ignited within him, he surged to his feet, charged with an energy that rippled through the air. "Use Blue Thunderbolt, Haiku," Icaro shouted, the words bursting forth with the urgency of their plight. The pendant around Icaro's neck began to glow, each pulse resonating with an ancient magic that filled the atmosphere with potential. Haiku, now fueled by anger and the will to protect his fallen friends, drew upon the depths of his power. He lunged toward the smoky spirit, but the malevolent shadow enveloped his strike, rendering it impotent. Icaro, sensing a surge of power within him, felt visions flood his mind. Flashbacks of an unknown dragon danced through his consciousness, imbuing him with a clarity he had not known before. The image of his father loomed large in his mind, urging him to retrieve the spellbook he had bestowed before leaving. Heart pounding, Icaro drew the tome from his satchel, hands trembling with anticipation. Each page turned revealed the essence of magic and power, until he discovered a summoning spell nestled within, a fire attack that promised devastation to their enemy, Fire Crying. With fierce determination, Icaro gripped his pendant tightly in one hand, the spellbook in the other, and called out, "Scorching Depth." His voice transcended the chaos of battle as he chanted the incantation, the words flowing from him like a river of flame. "As you dance, give me now the secret glance. Call upon my second sight. Make me intuitive. Make me clairvoyant. Change my mind. Scorching Depth, give me now the second sight." As he uttered the final words, the pendant erupted in a brilliant glow, the light washing over Haiku, enveloping him in a transformative radiance. Wings of purest white sprouted from Haiku's back, majestic and powerful, while his body expanded, strength coiling within him like the potential of a storm on the brink of release. The light swirled and flickered before vanishing, leaving Haiku transformed and resolute, a champion ready to face the smoky spirit once more. This time, they would not falter.
The battlefield lay in smoldering silence, a stark contrast to the chaos that had just unfolded. The smoke spirit, once a nimble wisp of dark vapor, had taken on a monstrous form, its presence towering and formidable. Dark tendrils of mist swirled around it, crackling with a latent power that felt palpable in the air. Haiku, once a mere flicker of resilience, transformed before the eyes of his companions. His stature grew, igniting a fierce determination within him. In an instant, the spirit's gaze locked onto Haiku, a predatory glint flickering in its ethereal eyes, before it launched itself forward with unnatural speed. But Haiku was quicker still, vanishing into the shroud of shadows that cloaked the battlefield. From the darkness, he propounded his attack, and a surge of blue flames erupted from his mouth, bright and fierce. The flames coalesced and expanded, a brilliant eruption that illuminated the gloom. "Blue fire eruption," he roared, unleashing the fiery wave toward the encroaching smoke spirit. The inferno engulfed the malevolent entity, sending it soaring into the air with a howl of rage and confusion. Haiku's speed intensified, blue flames trailing behind him as he fused his momentum with a feral grace. He ascended, the very embodiment of a raging storm-clad and cerulean fire, and struck again. With a masterful twist, he conjured the flame infernal blade, flames bursting forth from his own body, slicing through the fog like a blazing comet. Each strike cleaved the smoke spirit, a relentless flurry that left it reeling and defenseless. As the spirit crumpled to the ground, the once vibrant smoke now a mere feeble haze, Icaro seized the moment. With resolute clarity, he invoked a binding spell, the incantation echoing to the charged air like a proclamation. The spirit writhed as the threads of magic snared it, rendering it immobile and powerless. Once the battle had ceased, a heavy silence enveloped the clearing. The air was thick with the remnants of the struggle, and as Haiku and Ikaru rushed to their fallen comrades, a shared sense of urgency wove through their movements. Ikaru knelt, murmuring a healing incantation that flickered with soft light, his determination undeterred by the toll of the fight. Hours passed, stretching into what felt like an eternity. As the first tendrils of dawn broke through the night, the defeated forms of their companions stirred, awakening to a world cloaked in weariness. They rose slowly, fragility overtaking them as the truth of their own limitations settled heavily in their hearts. "We should have done more," one murmured, frustration simmering beneath the surface. Disappointment cast shadows across their faces, a reminder how powerless they felt against such darkness. Yet, in that fragile moment of vulnerability, something deeper lingered, a shared resolve to stand together, to learn and arise again. The defeat weighed heavily upon them, but also ignited a single flame of determination. They would not let fear dictate their future. The path ahead would be fraught with trials, but together they would face whatever darkness emerged from the shadows. As the sun dipped low on the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, the group trudged onward, their spirits lifting with each step away from the somber remnants of their recent battle. The chill of defeat had faded, replaced by the warmth of determination and the promise of reunion. They headed westward, the weight of their quest lightening as they drew closer to Hiroshima and the sanctuary of Nezakarasuyama. The journey, stretching 12 long hours, seemed monumental, yet with each hour that passed, the anticipation grew. Icaro felt a twinge of excitement mingle with his exhaustion. Thoughts danced in his mind, memories of stories told by his grandfather, the wise Ojaizen, whose presence always wrapped around him like a warm embrace, like the softest of blankets on a winter night. As they reached Nezakarasuyama, the temple loomed ahead, standing majestically against the backdrop of the twilight sky. The Kurabane temple had a charm of stillness about it, as if it were waiting patiently for their arrival. With every cautious step toward the entrance, Ikaru's heart raced, a mix of eagerness and reverence bubbling within him. When he pushed the door open, the creak echoed like a welcoming song, but silence greeted them instead. "Oh, Jaizen," he called out, his voice filled with hope. Yet the empty chambers echoed back with little more than shadows. And then, from the corner, a small figure emerged, calm and composed, with legs crossed in a meditative pose. His grandfather opened his eyes, and they sparkled with the warmth of ages past. Relief washed over Ikaru as he hurried forward, feeling the tension of the day melting away. "You made it, my dear Ikaru," his grandfather said, his voice rich with affection. As he took in a companion surrounding Ikaru, a ragtag band of friends, spirited and loyal, the venerable man smiled. "Welcome, everyone. Please come in," he gestured, his voice resonant with genuine joy. "I can see that each of you carries within a spirit just as fierce as my grandson's." Jiro stepped forward, a proud grin on his face as he acknowledged the grandfather's gratitude for their arrival. Yet the weight of Ikaru's curiosity bubbled forth, his eyes wide with questions. "Grandfather, why have you summoned us here?" he asked, an eager edge sharpening his tone. In response, Ojaizen knelt before them, inviting everyone to sit in a circle. The atmosphere shifted, the air thick with anticipation as he reached beneath his robes, pulling forth a book adorned with intricate carvings. The title, Dragon Igra, glimmered under the soft light, shimmering with an aura of ancient wisdom. A hush fell over the group as they gazed upon the tome, their hearts racing with the promise of adventure and the secrets yet to unfold. Ojaizen's voice broke through the stillness, low and steady. "You have all faced darkness, yet you stand here today united. It is time we delve into the mysteries of the Dragon Igra and confront the challenges that lie ahead." With those words, a spark ignited in Ikaru's heart. Hope surged through him like a tide, washing away remnants of doubt. They were not just survivors of battle. They had become something more, guardians of light in a world where shadows once reigned. Together, they would uncover the secrets of the Dragon Igra and embrace the destiny that awaited them. The journey was far from over. It had only just begun. The air crackled in electric tension, the kind that set every nerve alight and turned ordinary moments into extraordinary ones. Ikaru stood breathless, his heart pounding with a mix of fear and exhilaration. The words of his grandfather echoed in his mind, a comforting mantra amidst the chaos. They were destined for greatness, a new breed of heroes rising to meet the challenges ahead. As the dark clouds swirled ominously above them, Ikaru turned to his companions, each with their unique spirit resonating at their side, a shimmering testament to the untold power within. His mind raced back to the tales of Ethera, the fearsome dragon, and of Ryujin, the god of the sea, custodians of magic older than time itself. These legends weren't merely bedtime stories. They were the keys to their destiny, the threads weaving their lives into something grander, something profoundly hopeful.
Haiku. Ikaru yelled over the rumble of thunder, his voice tinged with a mix of adrenaline and curiosity. What do you see? Haiku's eyes, wide and shimmering like ethereal gems, scanned the tempest overhead. Ikaru, something powerful is approaching. It's time for us to show our courage. The silhouette of his spirit began to glow more fiercely, illuminating the fear that circulated amongst the group with a warm, golden light. They stood together, a chorus of hearts and spirits, ready to embrace whatever came next. The Guardians were not just their protectors, they were part of them, a partnership that transcended the bounds of the ordinary. The bond between Ikaru and Haiku was forged in the fires of destiny, igniting a shared strength that bubbled forth from the very core of their beings. With each bolt of lightning zigzagging through the swirling darkness, Ikaru felt an overwhelming sense of unity swell within him. "Whatever is coming, we won't face it alone," he shouted, determination radiating from him like an anchor in the storm. Haiku let out a fierce, melodic growl, his tails dancing with electric energy. "Together, we are unstoppable," he declared, echoing Ikaru's optimism. Around them, the other Guardians responded with might, preparing themselves for the unknown. Though the atmosphere was thick with uncertainty, a flicker of warmth passed between them, igniting hope. If their ancestors could seal away Ethera, then surely they could protect their world anew. They would learn, they would grow, and they would fight, as a team. "Look!" one of Ikaru's friends shouted, pointing skyward. The swirling clouds appeared to part, revealing a sliver of brilliant light that shone down like a beacon. It seemed to call to them, a promise of resilience amid their darkest hour. As the voice from above boomed, resonating with ancient power, Ikaru raised his chin and nodded to his companions. They steeled themselves, hearts synchronized with purpose. If the world needed heroes, they were ready to rise. Armed not just with the power of their spirits but with the unwavering belief that light could pierce through any darkness, they stood together. The storm may be fierce, and the enemy unknown, but they had each other, and that made all the difference. "Let them come," Ikaru declared, his spirit shining like a star in the night sky, the air thick with possibility and hope. As lightning illuminated their determined faces, he felt a rush of certainty. They were destined to be more than mere children in a tumultuous world. They were about to become legends. And together, they would shine brighter than any darkness could cast. The air crackled with tension as the voice from the depths of the looming darkness boomed across the desolate landscape. Its ominous words wove a tapestry of dread, threatening to cloak the world in despair. "You humans don't know what is about to come," it intoned, each syllable echoing like a death knell. "You will not be strong enough to stop the destruction that awaits. All of you, and everyone in it, will be obliterated along with your partners. The gate will be opened soon, and once it is, we will exact our revenge on humanity. All will be lost. No one will survive what is to come." Panic flickered in my chest, a small flame struggling against a gust of fear. Haiku, my partner and best friend, stood beside me, his wolf-like eyes glistening with uncertainty. But before I could voice my rising anxiety, a familiar figure surged forward, my grandfather, an emblem of strength amidst the shadows. "You will not harm these children, nor their partners," he thundered, his voice a clarion call piercing through the gloom. The fierce conviction in his words was a beacon of hope, igniting a spark within me. As if propelled by an unseen force, he reached into his robe and withdrew an ancient tome, its cover shimmering with a mysterious light. My heart raced as I recognized the book. The Book of the Unholy. Tales of its formidable power had echoed in my childhood, woven into lulling bedtime stories. My father once recounted how my grandfather had once been among the mightiest sorcerers to ever walk the realms, the book a symbol of that colossal prowess. With steely determination, my grandfather lifted the tome high, allowing the faded pages to flutter as if called by a gentle breeze. Sabit no kami ga wateshi no inori o kiki ire, he began, his voice steady, resonating with ancient authority. The enchanting words flowed forth like a melodious incantation, wrapping around us with an empowering warmth. The magic surged through me, igniting belief in the impossible. Korera no kadomotachi to sono patona o mamat kudasai, he continued, invoking the sacred spirits, pleading for their protection. Ha o mata okami jieaku okarisaka yo ni, anata o hogo no hikari de terasher. As he spoke, radiant sparks erupted from the pages, illuminating the encroaching darkness around us. Then, as if answering his call, a magnificent wolf materialized from the glowing book. Its fur gleamed like polished gold, and it bore a jeweled sword clasped tightly in its mouth, clad in ornate armor that shimmered brilliantly. Awe took hold of me as I watched my grandfather command such incredible power. "Now, go and protect," he commanded with an iron will, his voice thrumming with the energy of 100 storms. The golden wolf leaped into the air, soaring gracefully and seemingly defying gravity. In an explosion of light, it unleashed Wonder Wisp, a dazzling protection spell that wrapped around us like a cocoon, a luminous barrier shimmering against the encroaching evil. But the demon, outrage pulsing through its very essence, roared with fury. Its wrath twisted the clouds, a tempest brewing as it unleashed a counterattack. A dark energy struck like lightning, colliding with my grandfather's shoulder. My heart plummeted as I recognized the danger he faced, but even amidst the chaos, a flicker of belief persisted. My grandfather had summoned forth a powerful protector. The wolf shimmered, radiating hope with every pulse of magic, woven tightly with our fates. I could feel it, a surge of energy igniting within us all. Together, we would stand against the approaching darkness, guided by the love and bravery that intertwined our spirits. Even in the face of despair, I could see the outlines of a brighter future forming on the horizon, waiting for us to grasp it. With a fierce resolve, I clenched Haiku's paw in mine, ready to fight alongside my grandfather and the radiant wolf. This battle was just the beginning, a testament to the strength of light over shadow, and I knew, together, we would forge our destiny anew. The sun had long dipped below the horizon, casting its last warm hues onto a world now stained with sorrow and loss. The air was heavy with the faint scent of ash and the tang of old magic, remnants of an epic clash against the Yoki that had raged through their village. I could hardly comprehend that it was over. The fierce battle that had threatened to devour us all had ceased, leaving in its wake chaos and destruction, but more painfully, emptiness.
Kneeling beside my grandfather, a man who had always been my anchor and my guiding star, I felt a profound weight settle in my chest. His frail body lay upon the cold, unyielding ground, and for a moment, the world around me seemed to blur into a haze of regret and anguish. "Grandpa, are you okay?" I shouted, desperation lacing my voice, but deep down, I already knew the answer. The darkness that had cloaked the sky slowly unraveled, revealing the stars one by one, yet all I could see were the fading embers of my grandfather's life flickering before me. "Please, don't leave me. I need you." The words tumbled from my lips, a plea soaked in heartache, as tears streaked down my cheeks like rivers of grief. My grandfather's dying breaths were laden with urgency as he instructed me to rise, to fight against the Yoki and their relentless invasion. He spoke of risks too great to ignore, of gates that, if opened, could unleash calamities beyond imagining. I listened, heart aching, filled with an impotent rage as I witnessed the light in his eyes dim until it was extinguished altogether. In that moment, I felt undeniably lost. In the silence that followed, I felt a strange calm creep in, wrapping around me like a comforting shroud. I picked up my grandfather's book, the tattered heirloom that held generations of wisdom and responsibility. With it, he had instilled in me a flicker of hope, a belief that if I trained hard enough, I could become a beacon of strength, a warrior even greater than he had been. But the weight of his absence settled like stone on my heart, and no amount of determination seemed capable of erasing that loss. Haiku hovered nearby, attempting to offer solace with her unrelenting cheerfulness, though it felt painfully hollow amidst our mourning. As I stepped out of the shrine, Taking one last lingering glance at the man who had been my everything, I grabbed the remnants of his life, tangible pieces of his spirit intended for a purpose that could not be ignored. The next morning, as dawn broke through the shroud of grief, framing my companions with a silvery light, they gazed at me with unspoken thoughts. I sensed their shared pain, their collective hesitation, but I could not allow their sorrow to hold me captive. I cleared my throat, summoning a voice stronger than I felt within. I guess it's time for us to head to the school in Fukushima. Even I could hear the tremor in my own voice as I spoke the words, each syllable heavy with the ghosts of yesterday. We began our journey, a path that should have taken mere hours now stretched before us, arduous and fraught with uncertainty. As we trekked, the weight of loss hung around us like fog, and soon, whispers of spirits prowled the shadows of our resolve, hungry and eager for a fight. Each encounter dragged me back to our devastating loss, reminding me that my grandfather's legacy was intertwined with the fate of this world, a legacy I was now tasked to uphold. But as I faced the encroaching darkness, the voice inside me whispered a promise. I would not falter. I would push forward for him, for all of us. The school gates loomed before us, silent and unyielding, giving an eerie sense of abandonment. The absence of life felt palpable, as if the very air held its breath. Just as I started to doubt our arrival, a voice sliced through the stillness, a lilting, confident melody that beckoned us from afar. Riding atop a magnificent bird, its wings ablaze with a fiery glow, was a woman who introduced herself as I am, the general of the School of Magical Wishes. She was a sight to behold, a fierce spirit commanding attention as she gracefully alighted upon the ground. With a mere gesture, the heavy gates creaked open, revealing the secrets that lay within. As we stepped through the threshold, a sense of anticipation mingled with an unease deep within me. The vast hall stood in quiet repose, a stark contrast to the escalating chaos I felt brewing in my heart. I spoke of how everyone was deeply engrossed in their studies, their commitment to mastering magic, a shield of sorts against the lurking dangers of the world outside. The building itself bore protective enchantments, an intricate web woven to detect any approaching threats. Yet, despite her reassurances, I couldn't shake the feeling of something amiss. Her words painted vivid images of our world, a world marred by the resurgence of the yoki, monstrous spirits awakened from centuries of confinement. She told us of the ancient heroes who had once banded together, wielding their pendants to imprison the malevolent beings, only to have that seal corrupted. As she spoke, I felt the weight of responsibility settle into the depths of my spirit. It was now our turn to stand guard, yet I couldn't help but wonder if we were truly equipped for such a destiny. As we traversed the ordinary-looking hallways, it struck me how deceptively tranquil the school seemed. Each classroom concealed its own world of knowledge and power, perhaps a sanctuary from the turmoil that raged beyond its walls. We came to a classroom whose door bore an inscription in flowing kanji, "Welcome all and those that want to become stronger." Upon entering, our presence garnered the attention of a man standing at the front. "Welcome," he greeted, his tone candid yet heavy with purpose. Professor Junichi Sato was himself an embodiment of strength and wisdom, teaching the delicate art of harnessing energy and chakra, the very essence of our inner power. Intriguingly, I found my mind drifting back to Iam's words, realizing that without such knowledge, we would remain weak in a world that demanded our strength. After settling into our seats, it dawned on me how completely foreign this experience was. Surrounded by my peers in a classroom felt both invigorating and unsettling. As the professor guided us through the history of our land, tales of valiant heroes and monstrous demons, I could feel the heartbeat of the present thrumming beneath the surface. But just as the gravity of our studies began to sink in, an abrupt intrusion shattered the stillness. A blaring siren filled the air, echoing ominously through the halls. "Emergency breach in Sector 1. A voice blared over the din, and panic rippled through the room like a sudden gust of wind. "Stay in your seats," Professor Sato commanded, but it was already too late. The classroom erupted into chaos as students surged for the exits, their faces a portrait of fear and confusion. I felt my heart quicken as adrenaline surged through my veins. I couldn't just sit idly by. I exchanged a glance with Bayako, a silent agreement passing between us, and nodded. If there was danger, if the yoki threatened our sanctuary, Then we were called to act, our destinies entwined with the fate of the school, and perhaps the world itself. As we burst through the doors, the chaos outside was more horrific than we could have imagined. The air crackled with the heat emanating from the creature assaulting the very foundation of our sanctuary, a demon-type yokai known as Kirin. Towering like a beast from the deepest nightmares, it was a grotesque blend of deer and dragon, its scales glistening like obsidian under a blood-red sun. Flames licked at its body, illuminating the terror etched on our faces. Kirin was not just a legend whispered in hushed tones. It was a living embodiment of destruction, rumored to be even more powerful than the Phoenix and Tatsu dragon combined.
Beside me, Bayako's eyes blazed with a fierce resolve, mirroring the daunting spirit of the creature before us. The tension in the air thickened as I took a breath and ordered him to attack. There was no room for doubt. Panic would be the end of us. As I strained to focus on the battle ahead, Kirin's fiery gaze locked onto us, and it unleashed a torrent of flames that roared forth like a dragon reshaping reality. Just when it seemed we might succumb to the inferno, a flash of lightning cut through the gloom, igniting the flames and casting a surreal light over the battlefield. Out of the chaos, a girl appeared, charging toward us on an enormous spiked creature that resembled a lion more than anything else. She was a tempest of determination, urging us to flee, her voice barely rising above the cacophony of battle. "This is too dangerous," she shouted, her expression a mix of urgency and disbelief. But just as I was about to retort, who did she think she was? I am the resolute general emerged from the shadows. Her presence commanded the very air we breathed. "They can stay and help," I declared, her voice steady. With a firm gaze, she turned to the girl and recounted our triumph over a powerful spirit, a feat that had cost my grandfather his life. The girl's face froze, a blend of shock and respect twisting her features. Clearly, she didn't expect us to be more than frightened children caught in the crossfire. "Fine," she relented, albeit with a terse nod, as if conceding that maybe, just maybe, we weren't as useless as she had initially judged. As she readied her mount for action, I couldn't help but roll my eyes at her audacity. Did she think we were simply going to cower behind rocks when the fate of everything we loved was at stake? We were thrust into the fray, a misfit band of warriors against an unstoppable force, each heart thundering with fear and adrenaline. The stage was set, and we would either rise to the challenge or be consumed by the roiling flames of destiny. Chapter 3. The beast of impurity and injustice.